Hello, good evening. I'm not sure we're dynamic, but we're a duo. Brandon Cruz, Tim Van Voort, Lily Zhao. Yes, the night off. She'll be back with us soon enough, but we can kick it around a little bit. We have a lot to talk about, most of it baseball-oriented. Here's what's on tap tonight. The Brewers head into the All-Star break, a series win against the division-leading Reds. The Bucks head coach makes his debut in the NBA Summer League. Bucks picking up a couple of wins out there. We have a little fun with Say What and a good high school hotshot for you as well. Brandon, you were at the ballpark today. It capped off Brewer win 1-0 over the Cincinnati Reds, capping off quite a week of Brewers baseball at American Family Field. I guess I'd start with that before we get into the specifics of today and the Reds series. Just the entertainment value this week with the Cubs and then the Reds here.
Yeah, I mean, you could look at this week as being a 7-0 week if it all went the right way for the Brewers. But instead, you had some late-inning heroics by the Cubs. You had late-inning heroics by the Brewers, and they end up splitting that series before having a wild series with the Reds. And what you saw with this was that the Brewers bullpen pitched really, really well at times, and then at other times they just gave up some late shots. And when you see that kind of things, those kind of things happen, you realize that we are starting to crank up. We're starting to get into that positioning mode for the playoffs. And yes, there are only 91 games in, but at that point you start to realize things start to matter, and they're division games, so you see the rivalries come out. And what happened was you're on the edge of your seat throughout this entire game, and this entire series, this entire week, and no lead was safe. And with that being said, that means all these insurance runs mattered as well. So what you like to see is the offense continuing to come through, but you also have to wonder, okay, what happened to the pitching at key moments when they needed to hold the line, and they didn't. So overall, it was a very impressive week because the Brewers come out as winners, and secondly, it was great for a baseball fan because you never knew how any of these games were going to end.
The Brewers finished their 17 straight games without a day off to the All-Star break. They won 11 of those games, which is pretty good this week. A lot of runs scored against the Cubs, against the Brewers, against the Reds. A lot of roster moves made for the Brewers. You had ejections. You had David Ross, profane complaints about the Brewers closing the roof. So you said it's starting to crank up. But I think we're seeing some pretty good teams. Coming into this season, I thought the Cardinals were going to be there at the top, and maybe the Brewers would give them a run. The Reds look legit. The Cubs can push you, and I think the Brewers have shown that they can hang in against anybody.
It's one of those things that you look at this, okay, here we are at the All-Star break. We can take the time now to kind of assess what happened in the so-called first half. And what you see is a Brewers team that has hung on despite so many injuries, especially to their pitching staff. And then they've been able to do it also with an offense that's been anemic for a long stretch of time. So when you see guys like Willy Adames start to heat up right now, you wish for him that this break wasn't happening so he could keep playing. But at the same time, you're starting to see, okay, he's figured it out. It sounds like it was an issue with getting comfortable in the box with the pitch clock, and now he's found a way to do that by staring at the clock until it hits a certain number, and then he turns to the pitcher and he's dialed in. The other thing we've seen is Christian Yelich has turned his season around. He's been unbelievable since May, and so when you see those two players offensively start to go, then you realize that Brandon Woodruff could be on his way back in the relative near future, that there are a lot of promising things that could be coming in the end of July and August and into September with this team. The other thing you see is this Reds team is not going away. Their offense is prolific. And then you mentioned the Cubs too. They can hang, they can disrupt. I don't know if they're going to be good enough to hang around, and I also don't know if the Pirates are, but they can disrupt as well. I think the thing to look for, though, in the coming weeks is who makes the big trades, are the Cardinals selling guys off, and who the Brewers are maybe trying to bring in.
We see the standings here, and the Brewers get to the break 1 game behind the Reds and 7 games over 500. Pretty good with the difficulties they have on the health front. You're right about that. Seeing what the Brewers might do and bring in some players later in the upcoming month here, Brandon, you're exactly right. I think Matt Arnold has hit the right notes. My goodness, some of the minor signings have turned out to be major contributors. Even a Jumai Jones pickup, they signed him on Monday, and I'll guarantee you Nobody in the ballpark knew who he was. Most of the guys in the clubhouse didn't know who he was. Most people in the press box, they're looking at all that stuff. He gets a monster hit in the game. So far, the buttons being pushed in the front office and in Craig Counsell's seat have been the right buttons.
I think the biggest one, if you're going to look at all of that, is really Colin Ray. Colin Ray wasn't supposed to be a starter on this team, yet he's gone more than 80 innings of pitching, mainly starting, and just has done a great job of holding the line and getting some key wins and being able to fill that role in the starting rotation when they've been losing so many guys. Like, we really haven't seen Woodruff all season. So when you see Colin Ray step up and be able to contribute in the way he has, I think that is one of the biggest impact players that we've seen on this season. And like you said, you have to give Arnold all the credit in the world for finding the right guys, putting them there, and then Craig Counsell making the decisions in games where he's putting Elvis Peguero into pitch, where Yoel Payams is coming in to throw. He has found the right time to put these relievers in, and then he's also done it by bringing in, Jamani Jones at the right time to pinch hit. I mean, like you said, he was just off the street.
Right, absolutely. And to talk about your pitchers there, Julio Teheran, Wade Miley, Colin Ray, one of the big things they're doing is they give you some innings. The bullpen's been good because it hasn't been overtaxed. Guys have been in those roles. Craig Counsell always likes, he's my 7, he's my 8, he's my 9, that sort of thing. And if you don't have to go deeper than that, it helps set that whole thing up, no question about it. And then you have Devin Williams at the back end of that. And he blew one the other night, but those were kind of cheap hits that set up the situation for the Cubs to win that game. And he's just been very, very good at the back end of the bullpen.
And he's reliable. He has earned this all-star spot, his second in a row, and it's because he's not unhittable, but he does make key pitches, and when he does get hit, like you mentioned, it's not very solid contact on a regular basis. So he's always in a position to lock this game up, and they know when they turn it over to him in the ninth that they're going to get the win 20 out of 22 times.
And Corbin Burns gets invited to the All-Star game, gets added as well. So those two guys will be in Seattle. You'll see the game here on Fox 6, should you care to, on Tuesday night. This is also draft night in MLB baseball, and the Brewers have 3 new players coming to the organization tonight, the first of which was the 18th overall pick.
With the 18th pick of the 2023 MLB draft, the Milwaukee Brewers select Brock Wilken, a third baseman from Wake Forest.
Big, strong, right-handed hitter, Brandon. You look at video of this guy, he looks like he's about 35 years old.
I know. And the one thing that stands out, watch a lot of these hits. He's able to go to the opposite field with power. He's also able to just drive the ball very, very well. And to me, that's what you're looking for a corner infielder, a guy that can hit the ball hard, hit the ball far. And defensively, he's a guy, too, that they really like. And I think it's interesting that that's where they went with their first pick. They didn't go pitching first. That was their next pick. But their first pick is a corner infielder with a lot of power, and he hits all over the field. So he's not just a pull guy, and he seems to be able to hit a lot of different pitches. So that is something that it'll be interesting to see how he blossoms in their organization with where they try to go.
21-year-old college player, maybe not that far away from the majors. Of course, the Brewers are trying to do all they can to combat left-handed pitching, so we shall see. They did select a prep pitcher after that, and then another infielder with those overall 3 picks. So they sit in pretty good position as we get into the All-Star break point of the season. What do you think about this Brewers team? That's where we're going with our Fox 6 Blitz Insta poll. It is halftime, so you can go to the question by scanning the QR code on the screen or go to fox6now.com. Here it is for you tonight. Are you thinking that this team is moving on? It's our year? Pulling out your lucky socks? You're in the right division? Could say that. It's fool's gold or throw in the towel. So, not just basic choices there. You got to kind of interpret what you want to do there. So we'll have your answers coming up on the screen as we go through the program. Also today, Brandon, we heard from Willie Adames during the Sportscast. You had a chance to have an extended conversation with him.
Yeah, it was good to talk to him just before he went out under the All-Star break. He's not going to Seattle. He's taking time away, getting rest. And I did mention, it's one of those times where this is one of the hottest hitters in the Brewers lineup, and we did talk about that. Here's our conversation in the clubhouse following today's win over the Reds.
What does it mean for you guys to be where you are going into the break, especially with all the adversity you guys have had with injuries, et cetera?
It's exciting. It's exciting to see where we're standing right now. And, the way we've been playing lately, it feels really good. And I feel like we are in a really good position going into the break. And then, coming back and having another series against Cincinnati, I think it's going to be good and, exciting.
What does the break mean for you? I mean, you're hot right now. It's almost like you probably don't want it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like everybody needs it. I think it would be great for your body, to relax and reset and, just fresh and come back fresh and, just with the same mentality of, keep winning, but with a clear mind,
And with that clear mind, you come back, then there's that trade deadline. How does that kind of situation affect a room like this, knowing that there could be some changes coming in the near future?
Oh, I feel like we're excited, just to see how we're gonna approach the deadline. I mean, obviously, I feel like everything wants to be better and wants to add help, and I think that's never too much. We always I feel like you always need help. You always need room to be better. So I feel like we're gonna just wait and see what's gonna happen.
How was your first half for you? How do you feel about the way you've played as you guys go into this break?
Obviously, with all the changes, learning, adjusting, and just going through a lot of adversities and a lot of tough moments. But I feel like we get more mature from those moments, and I feel like we are in a better place, and we just get our mind stronger, and we just keep working to be better.
I know you guys are only 91 games in, but you come back and you play the Reds. You're only a game behind them. So to start the second half in a series like that, what does that do for this team?
I think it's just more motivational for us, because we know if we win that series, we're gonna start the season on top, the second half on top. So I feel like for us it's just exciting and obviously a motivation just to come back and to keep balling and try to beat them.
Last thing for you is to end the first half with a win, a 1-0 game, and it was only 2 hours and 4 minutes. Is that kind of the perfect getaway day?
I think so. I feel like it's great for us, that are traveling, just to go somewhere and relax. But I think it was really amazing to get that win, and especially in a quick game.
Yeah, quick game. Nothing like it when they're trying to catch a plane and get out for a few days. But what you saw there is a very optimistic, happy guy going into the break. And around that clubhouse right now, these guys are very optimistic about what lies ahead. And they know that when these guys all get healthy, they feel like they're the team to beat. And right now they're kind of proving that, hey, they treaded water all the way up to this point. Now they're ready to start moving forward.
And they get to play the Reds again when they come back. So we'll see how that goes. Hey, one more baseball note for you. The UWM Panthers program looking for a new leader, and congrats to Scotty Duffick. 17 years as the head coach, 29 years with the program. He had worked with Jerry Augustine for so many years prior to taking over the program. 483 wins. That's the most in program history. Been to the NCAA tournament 4 times. Has developed so much talent over there. There's not a person in baseball around this area or in the Horizon League that doesn't think the most of Scotty Duffick. So best of luck on the next chapter coming up for him. And we're back with more on the Blitz in just a moment.
I was telling everybody, go home. You feel me? I was like, go home, man. Why y'all still here?
That's a good question.
I mean, give me a little, prep time for a question like that. It's a little cold for butterflies to be out right now.
Okay. Yeah, it just ruined my night.
Maybe 7 guys in here I think I've met. I've played against a lot of some of the guys that I know for a good bit, and the only 2 people that I played with were Hobie and Julio over in the Angels. And so I saw their names on the roster, and I was like, at least if I don't know anybody else, I got 2 familiar faces.
And a name tag walking around the clubhouse today just
Hello,
to make sure.
I'm Dubai.
I'm just kidding. Oh, well, some name tags needed maybe a little bit for the Summer League and the Bucks as they started their action this past week. And 2 of the guys that don't need names right now or name tags, Andre Jackson Jr. and Chris Livingston, the 2 picks that they made in this year's draft, already making an impact in their 2 games in the Summer League action.
And let's face it, you're drafted in the second round. Livingston, a guy, there were a lot of questions, should he have even gone out when he did after Kentucky, but he thought he'd be a first-round pick, or he thinks he's a higher spot than the end of the second round. Andre Jackson Jr., definitely determined to come right in and do something. You're seeing that already out there on the court. And with Adrian Griffin, the head coach, around, You want to make a good impression on the guy who's going to have a lot to do with your playing time in the regular season.
Yeah, what do you think this is doing for Adrian Griffin? It's his first chance around guys. Now, they did have about 5 practices here in Milwaukee before going to Vegas, but now he's had a couple of games on the bench. What has this been doing?
I think it meshed a little bit with the staff. You saw Joe Prunty whispering something to him. You're going to find out some of those roles. Obviously, it's not the full staff. It's not to run everything the same way, but just the mechanics of what you're doing here, and maybe the players. Who knows how many of these guys will make the roster, but the chance to hear him. What's Adrian Griffin's voice like in a game situation?
And one of those guys listening to that very closely, I'm sure, is Marjon Beauchamp. The second-year wing is really making an impact and trying to show he wants to play. He wants minutes.
And he's getting minutes out there. If you look at the box scores, he's the guy with the most minutes. He's the guy with the most points. And he's got probably as much to prove as anybody else out here. Played a little bit last year. I think a lot of people are like, I thought maybe he'd play a little bit more. Well, how are you going to earn more minutes? Starting here.
And he did work out with Giannis in Greece and said that was it had a huge impact on him. When you look at these guys, they only have 3 more games on the schedule, at least for Summer League. Is there anybody that you're looking to see if they can make an impact, like maybe a Drew Timme or someone like that?
Yeah, Drew Timme played a little bit, right? I know Lindo Wigington was hurt. A.J. Green re-signed this week. Last year was on a 2-way contract. First year fully guaranteed, so he's going to be a part of the regular roster this year. He hasn't played yet, so maybe somebody like that to see where has he brought more to his game than just that strong stroke he had as a shooter last year.
And the last question, Taco Fall. Everybody is enjoying him being on this roster. Does he have a realistic shot to compete for a role?
I don't think so. There's basically one spot left on the roster that's probably going to go to Thanasis Antetokounmpo. So these guys are auditioning maybe for a 2-way gig.
All right, we'll see what happens. They do play again on Tuesday. Now let's check in on our Insta poll question. You can go directly to it by scanning this code or just go to our website, fox6now.com. What should the Brewers do at the trade deadline? Right now, it's you guys are saying that you want to talk about the All-Star break. They're in the right division is where we're talking, and we'll see how that unfolds. We have more answers from you coming up later in the show, but we have the high school hotshot coming up next. Well, thanks for staying up with us tonight here on the FOX6 Sports Blitz. He shares a name with a famous former Big Ten football coach, but he's making a name for himself in a much different way from a much different sideline. Here's this week's high school hotshot.
My name's Hayden Fry. I'm a graduate of Brookfield East, and I'm a competitive bass fisherman. Typically I carry about 25 rods, so they all have a different purpose, and they're all just tools in the toolbox essentially for me. Once you have them all out, you have your boat all organized and it looks good. You just kind of feel better about yourself, and then you fish better too. Before every tournament, I do new line on every reel. I check all my gear, make sure everything's perfect. Fishing, it's a mental sport, it's a tough sport. There's only so much I can prepare, and that's why it's so important to prepare to the extent that I do. I ride fish to win. I've got that on just about all my rods. You spend so much time, so much money out here. Why would you come out here and then, not try to win, not try to do your best? I'm actually an Eagle Scout. So I spend a tremendous amount of time in the outdoors, and God's country is beautiful, and the amount of respect you have to have towards the environment, towards the animals, towards the fish, it all counts. My first fish catch that I can remember, it was at my uncle's lake house, and I was fishing on his dock. My dad went inside to grab some hot dogs or something, throw on the hook, and I hooked a fish, and I got it right up to the dock. I thought it was the biggest fish in the world, and realistically, it was probably maybe a little 10-inch green bass. But that's what really started. I think that was my first fish catch that I remember. When I was 9 years old, I told my parents that I wanted to be a pro bass fisherman. They didn't know if that was a thing. I know they kind of looked at each other and, they asked, they're like, is that even a thing? I'm just super blessed, and these opportunities that it's given me are amazing. I'll be going to McKendree University this fall, studying business administration and finance, fishing on scholarship for their team, starting in August. Nothing could have prepared me or, got me to imagine that starting, fishing with a little hook on a hot dog on the dock would become where it is. I do have a lot of pets. I used to have 4 dogs, right now I have 3. I had a little parrot. We have a koi pond with about 100-something fish in there. My name's Hayden Fry. I'm a graduate of Brookfield East, and I was just named a member of the Bassmaster High School All-State team. And I'm this week's FOX6 High School Hotshot.
Oh, man, I love that. Well, Hayden says he's never dropped a line in the koi pond. He has been tempted, though. And to help strengthen ongoing interest in the Beast Anglers team, a club was recently started at a nearby middle school. Very exciting for him and that group. All right, that's it for us right now. We'll come right back with more results from your Insta poll and a look ahead at the week.
How much do you believe in the Brewers? The majority of you believe they're in the right division. Coming up this week, Major League Baseball All-Star Game, 7 o'clock, Tuesday night, right here on Fox 6.
And then after the respite, the Brewers head to Cincinnati for 3 more with the Reds starting Friday. And then the Bucks Summer League picks up Tuesday, another game on Thursday. We'll see what happens.
Maybe they could win some hardware, some Summer League hardware. Lily Zhao will be back with us next week. We appreciate you being with us this week.